Alright, so this one's going to be a little bit different. I have all of the parts to build a 6x6. I've been wanting to build a 6x6 for a while. But anyway, I was watching Adam from Cape Crawlers, and he was doing like a cost comparison. Basically, he gets asked a lot of the time if it's more cost effective to build a rig from the ground up or buy a ready to run. And generally, the answer is buying a ready to run is more cost effective. Granted, you're probably going to be spending money to upgrade it and everything, but to have a running vehicle, getting a ready to run is ultimately the cheapest option starting out. So I got to thinking about that, and I would really like to see if it's possible to change the answer to that question. And so, I have already purchased all of the parts for this, but I had this really cool idea. On one end of the spectrum, I have a build that, with every brass upgrade you can think of, and I put that on it. And that build was fairly expensive to do. And I got to thinking about it, and I was like, well, what about the other end of that? I'm always using my printer for something, to print for it. What if I had a vehicle that was mostly 3D printed? What if I could find all of the 3D printed parts out there and put those on it? How cost effective would that be? But then I thought, well, if there's no part, I've looked around for some parts and I can't find any. So I thought, well, what if I just make them? I can model some basic things. So I thought I would try my hand at putting together a rig from every part that I was capable of making. So the plan is to replace as many parts as I can with a part that I've modeled and 3D printed. And hopefully by the end of this build, I will have changed the answer to that question and created enough parts that building a rig from the ground up will be more cost effective than buying a ready to run. So at the end of this build, I will be releasing all of the models that I use that actually work out, and hopefully that changes the answer to that question for a lot of other people. I know that the cost of entry can sometimes be too steep, and half the fun of this, at least for me, is building these rigs. And sometimes, if building a rig from the ground up is not as cost effective, people are just going to buy a ready to run, and they miss out on the fun of building one of these, putting it together. And so, I kind of want to just change that for some people. And so I'm hoping to change the answer to that question for some other people as well. So I've made some progress on this, and I've kind of gone down the rabbit hole. So check this out. So this is where I'm at. I have basically modeled and printed 3 separate things that I normally would have purchased. This is a frame, so this is modeled after these 6x6 rails. This is a 3D printed frame, and I don't think I'm going to release this one just because it's so similar to this. I wouldn't want to rip anybody off. So I'm actually going to redesign this frame to be my own, and then I will release that. This is just kind of, like practice for me, being able to get a hang of building a frame. So I'm going to design 2 of these frames, and this frame took me 2 or 3 days just to kind of figure it out and print it. Of course, I had reference material right here, but now that I have this, it'll be much faster to make different variations of it. So this will all be available at the end of this build. Just to kind of go over the parts that I have here, I have a set of suspension links here. I'm going to need another set in the back to connect the 3 axles. I have that reversible skid plate. This is the exact same skid plate as this. So all of these actually fit together really, really well. Another reason I'm waiting till the end until I get this thing actually built, assuming I can get it going, is because I've noticed a few things that I want to change along the way. So if I release these models now and then someone's using it, they're going to run into the same issues that I ran into, which so far has just been this front bolt is like a 0.5 millimeter off to where it should be. Also, where these suspension links slot in, it's a tiny bit too tight. So I got, again, like a 0.5 millimeter. So I have to change those because I want to reduce the headache for people as much as possible before they get the models. And it'll save me a ton of work because otherwise I would just be continuously uploading and changing out models. So I'm going to do it after I have the final rig up and running. And I'm pretty excited to be able to try and change the cost of entry for everybody that chooses to kind of go this route, the 3D printed route. I'm not sure how durable this is. One of the main reasons I'm doing this is pretty much just because I want to know, is it durable enough to last? And but then again, if it isn't, you can always just print another one. And you can print it for, pennies. To give you an idea of how much this would have cost, so what I'm holding in my hand, keep in mind this is only one set of links. I would still need another set for the back. But if I were to buy those same parts, which I already did, but and that's how I was able to get the full cost for it. So the purchased parts would cost $48.50. To put this together, it cost me 68 cents. So that's pretty major. $48.50 versus a little over a $50. So that's encouraging. That's pretty promising. And I'm just gonna continue going and see where I end up. The next two pieces that I want to try to model and print is a rear truss and the servo mount. Those are going to go on the axles, and for now I am going to use these just the axles I bought. I will be replacing this truss on this axle, and the servo mount on the front axle is assuming I can get those models built and printed. I don't foresee having any issues with that because I've been able to do this. So the axles would take, if I even do these, I'm not saying I'm going to 3D print every single piece on this. I'm just going to do kind of what my skill allows, and see where we end up, and see if that ultimately is cheaper to build a vehicle from the ground up rather than a ready run. And if I tried to model these, can you imagine how long that would take me? Probably a long time. If I was a professional, maybe not that long, but I am totally not a professional. So we're just going to do the simple stuff first. So the next pieces, rear truss and the servo mount, and then I'll get another video out kind of showing the different stages of progress. And that's kind of how this series will go until I have a working vehicle, and then I'll release the models and we're on to the next. So pretty excited for this project. I don't think there's anything, there's probably a bunch of things I forgot. If you're 3D printing these, you'll also need to buy a set of these pivot balls. I actually have no idea how expensive those are. I'm just using leftover stuff that I got from other builds. So I already had this stuff lying around. If you don't, that is another cost to keep in mind, and the hardware. There's going to be hardware involved too. So, but generally, I'm hoping to reduce that cost enough that everybody can do, these ground up builds, and not even really worry so much about the cost. So that's cool. That's my ultimate end goal. Plus the science, the knowledge I gain. I have all these questions sometimes, and I'll go down the rabbit hole just to get an answer. I want to figure out if this is durable. Even if it's not, though, I mean, how cheap is, 68 cents to build this whole thing again? And chances are you're not just going, it's not going to explode. You're only going to break, a frame rail and have to print one thing. So, pretty excited for this. I guess check back and there might be a video with some new parts so you can kind of know what to expect, I guess. But we'll see. Till next time.